Well, welcome back, everybody, to another fabulous episode of the Places We'll Go show, and yet another amazing guest on today, and Jeremy Gilley, MBE. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here, Mark and Richie. Yeah, so thanks for asking me. Pleasure.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's I'm super chuffed to have you on, because, well, what a global trailblazer and pioneer that you are. I'm going to flatter you a little bit now, so just sort of, sit back and let that happen. But for people who don't know what Jeremy does, well, quite straightforwardly, Jeremy is founder of Peace One Day, which I think he founded maybe 25 or about 25 years ago. And Peace One Day, for those who don't know, is the adoption of the day, 21st of September, to make a major push towards driving peace around the globe, a global ceasefire day, a day of global unity. And the key thought is that everyone obviously very tuned into the notion of sustainability, but sustainability is nothing if we don't have peace in the world. And for those who follow the show very avidly, this one's going to be a little bit like James Brett in terms of how he's created a global movement. So watch out for what we hear from Jeremy. I'm going to say that Jeremy is an activist, an entrepreneur, but also a marketer, and very much a dreamer, but a dreamer who turns dreams into reality. Just a couple of the snippets of some of the things that Peace One Day has achieved. Millions of people tuning in. Just some of the accolades. In 2007, 4.5 million children were immunized against polio in Afghanistan due to Peace Day agreements. Worked with many global companies. In 2016, it was estimated 2.2 billion people were exposed to the Peace One Day message over the course of the year. Thousands of articles written on Peace One Day, read by billions of people. And then also a little bit of agility around COVID, moving towards a live global digital experience with hours of dynamic content and discussions and so on. And also music celebrations involving Elton John. I could go on, but actually I'm going to stop there. Just to add that the MBE was quite recent. So December 2022, well-deserved, and you could say about time. So with that, I'll hand over to you, Richie, to get us started. But fabulous to have you with us, Jeremy.
Thank you, Mark. Well, lovely intro. That was very kind of you to say such lovely things. Cheers,
Jeremy, what an absolute pleasure here. Tell us, how are you doing? Where are you, and how are you doing?
I'm in my editing room. We have a studio here at Peace One Day, two studios. We have a sort of an anchor studio and then a main studio. I'm actually in the editing room in here where we have 3 editing systems. And then next door, we have a very sophisticated engineering room with the latest hardware and software that we use in terms of being able to digitally broadcast around the world. We have very fast up and down speeds. We are geared up to put as much constructive narrative into the world that informs, inspires, and engages people towards action that we can measure, because humanity is at an absolute crisis point, and it is very serious. We all know it. And so, as a person who's been on the road 25 years, trying to, raise awareness of firstly a day of peace, but now many other issues, I have realized that storytelling, what you and Matt do on a weekly basis, and congratulations firstly to all of the incredible work that you do. I think it's 137 episodes or more. I mean, but however many it is, it's mind-blowing what you do. And thank you for doing that, because I feel the same way as you both feel, and of course your engineering team behind the scenes. And that is that putting constructive narrative into the world at this point is fundamentally important to our survival. If we don't inform, inspire, and engage people towards action, we are in serious trouble. I mean, so that's I'm living that every day. How can I put a message out into the world that might make somebody go, right, you know what? I'm going to go for it. I'm going to make my contribution to the situation that we face. Because unless we do that, I think we've got a very problematic scenario coming our way fast, as if it wasn't bad enough.
So, firstly, bit of pressure on Richie and I, given that you're probably a past master at all things in terms of content production. But anyway, more seriously, for those people who are listening rather than watching, I mean, the energy that comes from Jeremy is just incredible, in fact. And you've been doing it for 25 years, so there's a burning desire in you. So let's hear about, where did it all come from?
Yeah, so basically, listen, my early days were a little bit troubled. and it wasn't very pleasant at times, and it was quite frightening. Right? It was also incredible. Beautiful parents. You know, I love my mum and dad dearly. I speak to them daily. Thank God. I'm so pleased they're still alive and healthy. But I was also, very small, medically small. I'm deaf in one ear. I'm terribly dyslexic. I went to a special needs school. So I was a bit of a mess, to say the least. But, I was doing what I was doing. And I managed to escape from all of that because there was a call to action by a film person called Mickey DeLenz, who was one of the monkeys. And he wanted to make this show called Bugsy Malone in the West End. And I queued up with thousands of other kids. This before the X Factor days, but very similar to that kind of vibe, really. There was thousands of us all queued up outside Olympia. And I ended up getting the lead role of Bugsy Malone. And I was just a normal kid with no training or anything. Suddenly I found myself this kind of guy called Bugsy Malone who was trying to create peace between Dandy Dan and Fat Sam. I was in Her Majesty's Theatre playing the lead role, and I'd escaped from the south of England, and life changed. And I started to grow, would you believe? My hearing didn't come back and the dyslexia didn't go, but I started to grow, because of the freedom of it or whatever. I don't know what happened. But, and I never looked back. I became a dancer. I was with the Royal Shakespeare Company for 3.5 years. I was doing television programs, all sort of B-rolls, making my own stuff. It was all fairly kind of meaningless, really, but it was fun, and I was having a laugh. I met some beautiful people who are now sort of ambassadors, like Mark Rylance and Jude Law and Sean Pertwee, and amazing friends that I met from the Royal Shakespeare Company days. But that set me up, right? I mean, when I became 28, and I wanted to desperately make a film about peace, because I wanted to understand why humans behave the way they do in the home, school, community, place of work. When I watched the news, I was like, man, what is going on, man? Are we fundamentally evil? Is the destruction of the world inevitable? Should I have children? Is that a responsible thing to do? I mean, what is going on in this world, man? Why do we behave the way that we do? I got to somehow make sense of that, because I need someone to help me. Yeah. So I thought I'd travel the world and ask people about, peace. And then as I was doing that, because I knew a little bit about structure, I thought, you know what? A film which is just a series of sound bites, which helps me make sense of humanity's behavior, is interesting, but there's no mountain to climb. I thought, where is the starting point for peace? A film about peace. And then as soon as I had that phrase, that was it. I was like, shit, there's no starting point for a moment of global unity, for a moment of intercultural cooperation, from the moment that the world could stand as one, united, separate from politics and religion. And out of that unity comes strength and hope. And a kind of, a feeling that we can do this together as one, beautiful. And I thought, that's it. I'm going to try and create that down. I'm bound to fail. But if I fail, I can make that profound statement about peace that I wanted to, because failing is everything, really, in the end. It's not about getting to the top of the mountain. It's actually about the collapse. That's when it's interesting, not the top. So, I thought, that's it. I'm going to make that movie. And I never look back. Created their piece, made that film for Storyville's BBC, John Batzik, who won the Oscar for One Day in September. I then decided to make another film, see if I could get the Taliban to agree not to kill, to prove to the cynic that every mountain's climbable, which we did. And then, of course, after that, it was like, how do I institutionalize it? How do I institutionalize this day? How do I get it to 3 billion people? And that's when I started with working with very large corporations, spreading the word. And that's it.
Wow. Jeremy.
I'm looking at Richie's face. I knew a lot of this story, so even so, it's like
it's incredible. Gosh, I mean, I'm stunned for silence. It's absolutely just action packed, and so pure in its form of how you describe it. The two things that really just struck me in my mind as you were speaking and building this narrative. Of course, the framing around the collapse is everything. Wow. I mean, I'm going to explore that. I'm coming to it. But the other thing that really struck me was that embryonic moment when you got the part in Bugsy Malone, because it feels like, God, 1 in a million. Like your life trajectory changed on the back of standing that mega queue, right? And all of a sudden, something took you along the way, and you got that. How do you reconcile that in your mind?
I don't know. You're right. You're so right. I mean, it was a fucking 1 in a million. Excuse me for swearing. I'm sorry. I shouldn't swear.
Okay. No, that's okay.
I'm sorry. but my vocabulary is not the best. I've read anything, you know. So yeah, how do I make sense of that moment? I mean, it was just amazing, and it was a 1 in a million. And
you believe in destiny?
I mean, funny enough, the moment you said that, it made me think of a woman called the Brahma Kumaris. There's a movement called the Brahma Kumaris, which is an Indian movement. They're sort of spiritual advisors to the UN. And Daddy Janki, who was running it at the time, just when I started, because I wanted to speak to spiritual people, to heads of corporations, to the heads of the UN, to governments, to everyone, right? I knew that I had to build a case for the world that made this day make sense. I mean, how could I persuade every country in the world to vote for this idea? The only way to do that was to build a case where they could look at it and say, yeah, that day makes sense. I can see all of the benefits for it. So I needed to speak to everyone, all sectors of society. And one of those early conversations with a woman called Daddy Janki, and she said to me, I was talking to her, she's a very spiritual kind of yogi master, incredible woman. Here I was in my naivety, sort of selling to her as if I thought she'd give me a few quid for the journey, you know? She looked at me for about 2 minutes, not saying anything. She didn't say a word. And then she said to me, she said, Jeremy, listen, it's already happened. All you have to do is breathe. And it's those words have never left me. I'm not a spiritual person particularly. I believe in whatever people want to believe in. I respect what people want to believe in. But I have never forgotten those words. So I think that how do you make sense of any moment that happens to us in our lives, the people that we meet, the relationships that we have, what happens to our families, you know, why we're rich, why we're poor, why people are nasty. I mean, it's all just part of the rich tapestry, you know, of life that leads you on a journey for you to be and become, you know, what it is you're going to become, you know what I mean? And I think that you've got to take those wonderful moments and then there's really dark moments and absorb it all and see what there is to learn from every turn. And in fact, the dark moments are definitely the moments where I for sure have learned most about myself, where I for sure draw on that energy of that space where I had to search and find the light. You know what I mean? Like, that's interesting to me.
Jeremy, can I just pick up on one thing when she says it's already happened? How do you reconcile it? What does that mean in the way she was interpreting it?
Well, she was clearly talking about destiny, as you said, right? That's the word you used. She was clearly thinking along those lines, wasn't she? I mean, in terms of what she thinks, I'm sure. I mean, but I do trust, you know, when it gets very dark, you know, I do trust that there is something there for me, that the fall is meant to be. It is the moment where I step back and I reflect and I say, well, what did I do wrong and what can I learn and what equipment am I going to take with me in relation to rope to climb that mountain to see that view? The view is kind of interesting, but it is only a moment. The climb is everything. And if I don't enjoy each grip, then my life is going to be a short moment of pleasantness when I take that picture at the top. And that's no way to live, man.
So, I mean, the passion is incredible. Collapse and failure is when it gets interesting. It's in the dark moments I find the light. I just was sent this thing yesterday. I'm just going to read out briefly. It'll only take a minute. There's a lawyer, Julie Williams, who was born blind, and she writes on the paradoxes of life. I do not have the answer to the question of why, at least not now and not in this life, but I do know that there is incredible value in pain and suffering. If you allow yourself to experience it, to cry, to feel, sorrow and grief, to hurt, walk through the fire and you will emerge on the other end whole and stronger. I promise you. You will ultimately find truth and beauty and wisdom and peace. Just came to mind. So I had to do that. So Jeremy, for you, tell us the dark moments and how you found the light.
Oh man, my darkest moments I couldn't tell. I mean, it would be inappropriate for me to say, but I'm telling you, mate, I know what darkness is. I know it. And yeah, it makes me want to work hard. Yeah, you know, it really makes me want to work hard. And I can tell you that I've done 25 years, 156 countries. I've met pretty much everyone there is to meet at that particular moment in time in relation to those trying to save the world and support. But I've learned an awful lot. but I have never learned as much as the moment of true darkness.
Yeah.
I never learned more in that moment. So it's kind of like, wow, that makes me go, yeah, come on. Okay. We can do this. We can do this.
Jeremy, we talk a lot about the mountain to climb and like you say, the learnings in those treacherous moments that we all sometimes find ourselves in. I guess I wonder, maybe talk to the converse for a minute and think about what then is happiness and what can lead us to happiness.
I think that I think happiness. I mean, listen, for me, happiness is not being frightened. But happiness is, listen, oh my God, I've seen so many things in the world that I wish I hadn't seen, really. I mean, like, I've been filming darkness for a long time, separate from my own issues that I had to face. So, I sort of know what a really awful situation can be, and I mean, I filmed it, right? And then happiness for me is what I have. I mean, if I don't appreciate the fact that I have somewhere nice to live, that I can eat food, that I have the freedom to drive to the South Coast in a moment, that I can swim in the sea, that I can ring my mum and dad. If I don't appreciate that, then I haven't learned anything. And so that is happiness for me. You know what I mean? And then I think that it helps me a lot, right? Because I confront situations and I find that the experiences I've had, I don't get frightened by things. I don't get frightened because I have been frightened. And the issues that life confronts me with, whether it's not having enough money, not being able to pay the bills, they're like, no, I am not going to let that get in the way of my thinking and my vision and my journey and my climb. No way. That is just part of what I must resolve. It's not going to make any difference to me. It's not going to keep me up at night. It cannot. If that's just, what am I doing? You've learned nothing, Jeremy, if I were to allow that to happen. And here I am, traveling the world, filming in Somalia, Sudan, Afghanistan, wherever it was, and taking pictures of people who were desperately poor, some of whom I wonder whether they're here, they were young, starving. And I left them saying I would go and work hard. I could leave and get on the plane. They couldn't. To think that I would then, get on the plane and come home and then just worry about something fairly superficial and it would just be wrong, right? For me personally, I'm not suggesting anybody else needs to live that. I'm just telling you how it is for me. And I'm grateful to the problems. I'm grateful to who I saw, those people who let me take their picture. I really want to just live my life. I want to go for it. I feel like, the next 10 years are going to be just so exciting in relation to the amount of narrative I could put out into the world that does inform, inspire, and engage towards impact. I want to create a Netflix for good. I mean, we're broadcasting every month. I want to create a destination that people come to for live entertainment, that they come to back catalogue of programming where the themes are justice, equality, diversity, inclusion, racism, peace, climate, you name it, right? As opposed to action, thriller, comedy, drama. Yeah, I want the Netflix for good. Yeah, a streaming portal that the Jedis come to in order to help save humanity, because the car crash is coming and the safety belt's built, but we just ain't all put it in yet. And I want to create that in the world of media. Because, we need to go beyond the normal constraints that which we operate at this present moment, right? As if we think that politicians are going to actually resolve those issues for us. No, big business is one of the best chances we've got of saving humanity. That's clear. In my opinion, it has the workforce, it has the money, it has the trust, and it's doing incredible things already. And I think that we, the peoples, we need to stand united, and we need to contribute in our own personal lives and make that something that's our legacy as opposed to our bank balance. that our impact and our values and our purpose, are what maketh the person, rather than some frigging yacht or money in the bank of superficial rubbish. You know what I mean? Quite interesting. And that's where I think the world will go, especially if AI takes over. What mechanism are we going to have at that point to show that we have manifested in our own lives something special? It will be on the basis of probably what you do, not who you are. Quite fascinating.
Yeah, for sure. And so ultimately, Jeremy, you are in the business of hope, and you've done some incredible things. So I'm just to give folks a flavour. Tell us a couple of things maybe that you're most proud of so far.
I'm most proud of my little girl, number one. That's my driving force the moment I wake up. I want to look after that little beautiful person. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud. I'm proud of the manifestation of the creation of the first ever day of ceasefire with a fixed calendar date, Peace Day. I'm very proud that that is the day where more people think about peace than any other day of the year. I'm very proud that that's the day where there's the greatest reduction of violence on any given day. I'm very proud that the ceasefire happened in Afghanistan and the Taliban agreed not to kill or kidnap anybody. I'm very proud of the Carnegie Watt Peace Prize that was received in 2010. I'm very proud of that MBE. I'm very proud that 3 billion people will be aware next year of this day. And I'm very proud of the relationships of thousands of men and women, of which people can see on the 21st September. I mean, the group of people that is coming together for the 21st of September Peace Day this year is just astonishing, and it's humbling. And I feel really kind of blessed. I know that it's the sort of thing that you expect somebody to say, but I really do. I feel really in it. I don't feel above it. I feel humbled. I feel like, wow, you're a lucky guy, Jeremy. You've had a beautiful journey, and yeah, okay, it's been tough, but you have a responsibility, and that's why I can mention all of those things, right? They're and all of them were made possible by many others, particularly from the corporate world. People like Paul Pullman, who's been there with me forever, and people like Mark Mature, who was at Coke and then Samsung and Salesforce. Just an incredible human being. And many other business leaders, like Carlos Slim and lots of others. Richard Branson, will appear in the show, again, and has been there for me many times. So I think, those are some of the things that, just make me really feel blessed and excited and passionate about wanting to keep going.
Jeremy, it's remarkable. The analogy that draws in my mind is to the movie Matrix, and where people have the option to take the blue pill or the red pill. And I don't know if you've come across that moment, but it feels very much like you are a visionary, and it feels like you're going down the track that most other people don't consider in their realm of their lives. You talked about it, right? The things that are trivial, or things that are somewhat sort of things that are just barriers in your way, are the most fundamental problems that people face, right? Income, family security, job, career, next rung of the ladder, and all the rest of it. I mean, what would you say for someone who's on the fence of trying to forge a different way of life and a way of thinking, and yet perhaps is still caught in that mainstream way of what society expects of them in that traditional corporate setting?
Yeah, I mean, I really feel my heart goes out, man, to men and women around the world about how caught up we have to get. I mean, we live in a place where you just got to earn money, you've got to, and that's it. And so anybody who's out there doing a job they don't love, I'd say, well done, keep going. You're looking after yourself, you're looking after your family, and you should be immensely proud of that. Because it's not easy, this world. It's not a place that's simple. And I don't think anybody should feel bad about the fact that they've created security for themselves and their family. I think they should be commended for it. I think it's incredible, right? Because it's not a fair place, this place we live. It's not. Okay, and then so I think that, and I think that those who are on the fence, look, there's a very interesting time of values and purpose. The world is changing. Whether it used to be CSR, we're now moving to ESG and other sort of different words that we all use. Values and purpose are everything. They just are. Big business knows perfectly well that if it doesn't put purpose and values front and center, that it is not going to be able to retain the workforce. It's not going to be able to retain the consumers. And therefore, it knows perfectly well that it is a shift in consciousness. This is a fundamental thing in order to make more money. And if it's greed that got us in the problem in the first place, which it was, it may well be greed that gets us out. And there's the hope. Not a shift in consciousness. The fact that that peace is profitable, that doing the right thing makes money, that is really hopeful for humanity. And also, of course, there are, and let's be really fair about it, amazing men and women all over the world running very large corporations who really care and who've got passion and intelligence and experience about how they are going to move their workforce and the business that they're within to a place which is really net zero, that is fair, that is inclusive, that is just, that is equal. And that's really exciting. There is a shift. Whether it's happening fast enough, who knows? Time will tell. But there's a shift, and there's clever humans around. And I think that science and technology will play a massive role in our survival. And I'm hopeful that we can do this. But I do believe that every individual has a responsibility in a place within the framework of making that cash, which they have to do. I think we can do both. Yeah. And that's interesting, especially with the advent of technology and social media and the way in which we're connected in a way that's never been seen or known before. I think that for me, the crash, man, as much as I don't want to crash, and as much as I'm frightened of a crash, and I will be embarrassed with a crash, it will make me sad, and I have to face my little girl because I messed it up. I am willing to do that. I'm willing to crash. And that will be the end of that chapter. And a new chapter will come as a consequence of that. But I have to be ready to face it. I have to. Yeah. That's what you've got to face. You know what I mean? If we really want to resolve these really scary things that are happening, then we have to really confront the fear. We have to face the fear and just go for it. We got to, man. I think I have to anyway.
Wow. Almost lost for words, but I'm going to go back. Richie had his Matrix movie moment. Mine. What's coming to mind is I don't know if you've seen The Fifth Element, where Mila Jovovich comes down to Earth and she sort of does a rapid learning curve of the world, and she gets to W and it's war, and she's usually basically a super being that can ingest massive amount of information, and she sees all the visuals of the wars that humans have created, and then she gets quite down on humanity. You said at the beginning, you've understood why humans behave the way they do. So what's going on?
Well, I'm not sure I'm equipped to really answer, but look, I think I don't know. The simplest answer that I could give for myself is that intellectually, we think we're different to what we really are. We can sit around and talk about things being differently, and the sharing and but I think we're fighting against the DNA, the sort of the makeup of the human and how it's built to kind of think quite short term. It's not like the brain. I mean, if we look at the evolution of a long period of time, and I haven't really read much. I only know what I know from my journey because I'm terribly dyslexic. I don't think I've read 10 books, right? So all I've really got to draw on is my own personal experience. But as I see and I look and I hear and I watch, I see a lot of conversation that repeats, but nothing really changes. You know what I mean? And there is change. We talked about change within business. We talked about values and purpose. And we talked about, that being driven by a sense of being profitable, right? So do you see how that plays into this idea of, we are what we are, and we have the capabilities that we have. Intellectually, we think we can be different because that helps us make sense of where we are, and it gives us some kind of degree of meaning. But the truth is that we're quite collect, control, you know what I mean? because I'm not quite sure why we're not learning. It's been a very long time that we knew what we had to do. And my little dog running. You know what I mean? And so that's what I think. What do I think is going on? I think we're geared a particular way. I think we believe that we can be different. I mean, I think it's very hard.
Extraordinarily hard, Jeremy, and what a wonderful way to articulate that dichotomy between speech and action, actually, and learning. You know, you'd have thought we'd evolved faster from that experience, right?
Look at COVID. Look at what happened, right? You and me, Richie and Mark, you were thinking, my goodness me, how interesting this is that we're working together as one. You know, you hear Mark Pullman, you hear Paul Pullman, and you hear Mary Robinson talking about this decade that we were in, where it was fundamentally crucial to change. Because if we didn't, what was going to happen in a short period after that would be catastrophic. And the absolute opposite of what we should have done, we've done. And I just can't believe it. I just can't believe it. And then that's why I say to you, I think we can talk it, but it's almost like our being doesn't have the ability to really do it unless there is some kind of payoff in relation to doing it.
Hey, Jeremy, look, well, we're coming to the end of the segment, and we always end with a big, legacy type of question. But I think right now I've got a more burning one that I want to then ask, to kind of tail us off here. And that's the role of storytelling to change behavior, because storytelling in itself is a form of speech. And yet, therefore, if we're saying that we are unable to create constant and sustained action, no matter how much we speak, what is then the role of storytelling, and what is different about storytelling to all the other narratives that we can create to truly then drive action?
Well, the role of storytelling is to inform, inspire, and engage people towards action for me. Yeah? So what I want to do, I want to put as much constructive narrative out into the world with my time here that I hope will inform someone, inspire someone, and engage someone. I mean, we're talking about two things here, right? We're talking about fundamental change and, in order for humanity's survival. And we've said that, I've said that we can intellectually talk about it all being different, but we struggle to actually make it different. Now that I believe to be true for me, and that's why I think storytelling is so incredibly important, that if young people or people can receive that and help them to understand that the actions that they take in their life, if we were collectively, doing small steps, then it may well be a major contribution to humanity's survival. And so, that's kind of what I think. And I think that also the status quo has shown us that really amazing things do happen because of storytelling. Whether it's the slave trade, whether it's the vote, whether it's gender equality, whatever it was, there's always people on the peripheral, storytellers who are speaking out, which then filters down into the center and becomes the new status quo. And it's ever evolving. Every day it's shifting. And it's shifting because people are telling stories. And there lies the hope. And I think what you do is immensely important, because I could tell you right now, and I think it's amazing, that because you do what you do, there are people who hear your messages, all of those amazing podcasts that you've done, and somebody heard it and it changed their life forever. It was that Bugsy Malone moment that you talk about, Richie. And that's the power of the work, Mark, that you do, those guys behind the scene. And well done. You know what I mean? It's beautiful. Listen here. Yeah?
Jeremy, honestly, I mean, this has been just so enlightening. It's been an incredible time that I've got to spend, and we've got to spend with you, hearing your truth. It's been eye-opening. And you speak with such passion and humility and interestingly, positivity, which kind of is a juxtaposition for some of the things that we spoke about and some of those moments. It's time just where I get to maybe say a few things around reflections on some of the things that you've talked to us about. And I must start, Bugsy Malone. Boom, everyone needs to have a Bugsy Malone moment. So, I guess that whole, luck comes from the harder you try and all the rest of it. But still, I think there is truth in that luck, being picked out of one of those thousands. But remember that it's already happened. I love that, right? It's already there. And that's quite incredible. Most people live their lives for those few pivotal moments at the top of the mountain. And yet actually what you've said to us today is that not only does that mean you'll live for very few moments, and actually it's all about the climb, but probably what's more important, more impactful in someone's life is around the collapse is everything. I love that. The collapse is everything. And, you need to really, really embrace those moments, those dark moments, because actually that's what truly leads to, I guess, enlightenment of some sort. You've been to 156 countries, seen many things, seen some incredible things, and you're not afraid, you're not frightened. And to you, contentment and happiness very much is in the small things in life now. That's what came across to me. Your little girl, eating food, speaking to your mom and dad. These actually are privileges. These are luxuries that we take for granted. And, I'm from India, and I've seen a few of those, or can relate to a few of those things that you've said about people there. And they're things that they can never have. And I think that, we need to work extraordinarily hard to be able to represent not just them, but a life that is hopeful and for good. And so that vision, that those 3 words you said, Netflix for good, I think it's powerful, right? As a visioning statement of what we can and you can create with constructive narrative. I think it's wonderful. I applaud you for the Peace One Day movement. It is absolutely incredible what I say, one man, recognizing that there's a whole lot of people behind that one man that can achieve. And it's just been incredible. Greed got us here and greed can get us out. Wow. Maybe that is the silver bullet. So look, there's so many wonderful things that I've heard here today. But perhaps I'll finish on this last anecdote that you said, that you're willing to crash. Not many people are willing to crash, right? We all want our safety boats, but actually to truly achieve something, to truly grab it, we've got to be willing to crash and then face that fear. And I think that's something that you bring to the table here, Jeremy, that ability to do that, the want to do that, the passion to go for it. And and you tell it through some compelling, amazing stories. So thank you. It's been just a wonderful, wonderful experience here today.
Thank you. Lovely listening to all of that. And thank you, Mark. Mark, for those who are, I think we're all shedding a few tears here today. But Mark, thank you, mate, for asking me. And thank you, Richie. It's been an amazing experience, and I really wish you the very best of luck with this podcast. And to those that are listening, visit peaceoneday.org and follow us on social media. There's lots of ways in which you can get involved and lots of content that I hope will inform, inspire, and engage you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy. And great timing, 21st of September, in case you didn't catch that. And we'll try and put a link in what we send out to all of that as well. But for me also, thank you again, Jeremy.
Yeah. Take care, guys. Bye.